Now, children with allergies are being put at risk by inconsistent policies and support available in schools. That is the warning from a charity founded by the mother of a boy who died after an anaphylactic shock. A survey from the Benedict Blythe Foundation has found that 1/3 of schools in England don't have any sort of policy in place to support pupils with allergies. The research also suggested around 57% of schools don't train staff to manage allergies. Well, Helen Blythe set up the Benedict Blythe Foundation to call for change in memory of her own son. And this is their story.
Oh no, bigger.
Bigger? How big is it?
It's, I'll say 10.5.
He was incredibly kind. I think one of the things that you realise when you've lost a child is the stories that other people tell you about your own child. The number of stories about his kindness and how he supported his friends and how he was there for other children is what I hear more than anything else.
Do you want some food?
Benedict Blythe was 5 years old. He seemed happy and healthy when he arrived at school on the 1st of December 2021.
He helped his sister to get her sort of toy and chocolate out of the advent calendar, and then he went off to school like normal. And then he didn't come home, and he died from anaphylaxis a few hours later.
Benedict was allergic to milk, soy, sesame, eggs and nuts.
I think for anyone who's first diagnosed with allergies, it's overwhelming.
Daddy, don't worry, we're not going to...
In his life, he'd not had a huge number of allergic reactions, and part of that is if you avoid the things you're allergic to, you don't really experience too many allergic reactions. We were told a lot that children grow out of allergies, and I think there was the belief that this is a really young child with an allergy. He's got a high likelihood that he'll outgrow it. So we sort of bought into that, I think.
Whoa!
You still don't know what actually happened to your son.
2.5 years on, we still haven't had the inquest, so we don't have answers about what happened on that day. And that's difficult for us to sort of get our heads around. We don't know how he went to school and didn't come home.
Despite not yet having the answers, his family are keen to stress there is no suggestion the school did anything wrong.
Your daughter also has allergies. With what happened to Benedict, how do you trust her with the outside world?
It's incredibly difficult. It can be really hard to trust anyone.
Helen is now trying to change the law in Benedict's name. She wants mandatory training for all schools in England. Her driving force is Etta, her 5-year-old daughter, who, just like her brother, can't tolerate eggs or milk.
Schools are doing loads of really good things as it is. Individual teachers are going above and beyond. But it shouldn't be that teachers are having to make individual choices, and we believe that education as a whole needs to be safer. And that's one of the reasons why we've been campaigning for political change that forces schools to adopt certain measures that mean that every school in England is safe for a child with allergies.
The Department for Education says all schools are required to make arrangements to ensure children are properly supported. Fiona Lambden, BBC News.
Well, Helen Blythe joins us now alongside James Gardner, a nurse consultant who specialises in children's allergies. Morning to you both. Thank you for being here. Helen, tell us about how you prepare to look after a child with allergies. How much of your life is now spent looking after Etta and her allergies?
It's a significant weight that parents of children with allergies have to carry. And it's you're constantly vigilant. So you spend a huge amount of your time reading the backs of packets, preparing before you go out for a meal, thinking about the places that are safe, packing the medication. It is a constant. And then there are scenarios, like at school, which we're talking about today, where you have to trust other people to make those same sort of judgments and to think about all of those things.
And you said thinking about places that are safe. What is deemed a safe place?
It's a really difficult, and it depends, a lot on, the level of risk that you're comfortable with as a family. I mean, I know a lot of people with children with allergies who just won't eat out. You can't trust someone else to care about it as much as you do and to put all those safeguards in place. But I think you would expect places like school and environments like that to be safe places.
And James, what can be done to make more places safer?
So awareness is a key part of that, and raising awareness of allergies is really, really important. And then thinking, particularly about schools is, making sure that we identify the children, that we've all plans in place for those children, and that we, are aware that those children are there and that they're managed. And it's the same in restaurants and things as well. It's that awareness of what's on the menu, having that awareness of allergies, so to keep people safe in terms of what they're eating.
And you have set up a foundation in Benedict's name. What do you hope that can do? Is that one of the jobs of the foundation, so that we all know what the dangers might be and what to do, how to react in an emergency?
Yeah, so we set up Benedict Blythe Foundation after my son died, and we started to get messages. So I put a post on Twitter, and from that we started to get these messages from families who were parents of children with allergies, and they were telling us stories of hope, where schools were doing kind of really wonderful things, and stories of pain, where children were being exposed consistently to their allergens. They were having repeated anaphylactic shocks in school, and we just couldn't get our heads around how there could be that variation, how it could be that different. And my husband and I would read these in an evening, and it prompted us to go, actually, something should be done here. We should see if there's a way of making everything more consistent and safer. And so I think awareness and education is a really big part of that. So talking about this today, there'll be people that are watching this and it's raising it to their attention for the first time. But actually there's some practical things as well that I think would be useful to implement.
Were you surprised when you did your research at how little training there was in schools, and maybe how unprepared some schools are for it? Because we know they are trained to look after children. They're trained in things like safeguarding their security, fire training to get them out of a building if need to. Feels like this is the thing that isn't really on many of their radars.
So it's a really difficult thing that there aren't legal expectations on schools to do some of this training. But what we wanted to look at, and the reason that we did the research that we did was we sent out a freedom information request to 20,000 English schools, and we analysed a 10% sample with a company called the Institute of Clever Stuff, who went through this, and they helped us to identify what the management practices are in English schools, so what they're doing at the moment to keep children safe. And we looked at that against the recommended good practice, and I think the findings were quite shocking. So as you mentioned, there was a lack of training. So only 1 in 10 schools hadn't got basic training in how to administer an auto-injector, which is something that you would think would be in place. But beyond that, in terms of the expected safeguards, 70% of schools didn't have the 4 things in place that we would think that they should have to keep children safe, which is shocking. And there was also just such a postcode lottery around it as well. So I think it was the fact that, if you've got a child with allergies and you're looking for a school for them to attend, you don't know whether your local school is going to have these measures in place or not. And it really is a roll of the dice.
And James, I imagine on the flip side of this, there might be school staff, nursery staff listening to this thinking, this is such a huge responsibility. I am terrified I'm going to get this wrong. What would you say to them?
So I think the key is there's education resources out there for them, and I think that's where, it's this lack of awareness sometimes in allergy, that there are resources available that schools can access for free as well to train. But it's also something they've got to be aware of. This is a big problem in children. 8% of children will have some form of allergy. So you've got to think that's 1 to 2 children in every class. So they're going to see more and more children coming through their clinics.
Why is that?
It's a multi-factor thing. You're genetically predisposed to allergy, and that might not necessarily be food allergy. You might have someone in the family with asthma, eczema, hay fever. And then obviously now we're in a very clean environment. Children don't play in the dirt anymore. We're vaccinated against everything, which there's pros to that, but also that leads to potential for allergy development. But really, we don't know actually what triggers those allergies. But we're definitely seeing an increase, and it will be interesting to see now post the pandemic whether that massively increases over time as well, with the children all kept in those little bubbles.
James, Helen, thank you for coming to talk to us. It's really important, isn't it, just to raise awareness, then people at least can go and do something about it. Thank you. for coming in. Nice to see you.
And the Department for Education have said this. They say, we understand the seriousness of severe allergies. We're clear that children with medical conditions should be properly supported to enjoy a full education and be safe at school. All schools are required to make arrangements that ensure this is the case.